What's up everybody, it's Matt from Peter Glenn, and in this video we're going to show you the difference between a wakeboard for a park and a wakeboard for behind the boat. Let's check this out. Okay, so obviously wakeboarding is something that was built behind a boat. The name wakeboard refers to a board that you ride on the wake of a boat. But over the years, and with the more popularity of the cable parks popping up all over the place, there has become a very, very specific rider that wants to ride just those cable parks. The nice thing about those cable parks is that they make it very, very accessible. You can literally go to it like it's a skate park or like it's a ski hill and just go out and have some fun enjoying the sport of wakeboarding without actually having to own a boat. But when it comes down to it, a park board and a boat board, they are two different boards. So starting off, when you're looking at the boards, you'll notice that the shapes are very, very similar from your park boards to your boat boards. And obviously looking at this boat board, we can see we've got some rocker to it. The shapes on the tip and the tail are very, very similar to this park board. But one thing about it is when you're getting into those shapes, especially up in the tips, they're a little bit more specific for a board behind the boat than they are for a park board. Not that they're not important for a park board, but they are a little bit more important for a board behind a boat. It has to do a lot with the speed and how the board actually releases off of the wake. But some of the more important things to look at are going to be the flexes of the boards. Boards for behind a boat, they usually are a stiffer flex. The board is basically a foam core or some sort of material that is wrapped up in fiberglass. And when you go to flex this thing, you'll notice that it has a little bit of flex, but it doesn't have a lot. It's a very, very stiff board. You need to get that speed. You want that pop off of the wake. You don't want a board that's going to mush when it hits the wake. You want something that's going to get you up into the air and give you a lot of stability on your landings. And when you're looking at park boards tend to have a wooden core on the inside, and they do tend to be a lot softer. When you're riding those harder features, you're hitting the boxes, the rails, a lot of times you want something that's going to be a little bit more forgiving. Also, when you are learning to press the board, where you're actually leaning up on the nose of the tail, you're going to want a board that can flex and get more board on the feature to give you that ultimate stability. And then from there, when we flip the board over and we look at the bottom of it, there's definitely going to be some big differences, but there are going to be some similarities. So this one, for instance, this is a park board, and it does have a little bit of channeling on the bottom, but there are a lot of park boards that don't have channels on the bottom either. So the channels are there for a little bit of speed, a little bit of grip, but when you are riding some of those features, they're not as important. And that's something that you are going to see on the bottom of all of the boat boards. Basically, they need to give you that extra grip. They need to give you those channels. They want to give you that speed, not just out of your turns, but also as you're coming off the wake. You want to make sure that that water gets channeled just right and helps force it off the end to give you the right amount of pop and the right amount of release off of the wake. Also to give you a little bit more stability on your landing. And some of these channels do have the fins as part of them as well. These channels go directly into a molded in fin. And then some of those boards are going to actually have a removable fin in the middle as well, depending on the board, how it rides, how it's set up, and who it's set up for. And when we go back over to the park board, you'll notice that there are no fins on this thing at all. There's not even a place to put a removable fin. Now the reason is when you are riding those harder features, those boxers, the rails, the kickers, all of that, if you have a fin, it's going to get in the way more than anything. One, molded in fins, they're going to cause the board to sit up a little bit higher, and you're going to actually have less board in contact with the features, so you're going to be losing stability. Also, when you come off of those features and you land on the water, it's usually going to be a flat water, so you're not going to need a fin to help lock you into some choppier water. And if you are spinning and you come off a few degrees short, you're not going to want a fin that's going to lock right in. You're going to want that nice, easy, forgiving field similar to a snowboard. So again, most of your park boards, they're not going to have the fins at all or even the option to add a fin. But again, depending on the board itself, it might have some channels, but that is something you're definitely going to see in almost every single boat board on the market. And then while we're speaking about those harder features in the park, when you're looking at a boat board, the bottom of the board is just going to be a standard material. A lot of times it's going to be a very similar material to the top sheet of the board, or it's going to be some sort of very slippery surface, and it's not really built for durability in the same way a park board is. Yes, this is still built to be a very, very durable board, but when you're hitting water all day long and it's just water, 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 you don't need extra durability. You don't need it to be overbuilt at all. When you're hitting those rails, hitting those boxes, hitting those kickers, you're gonna want something that's gonna have a lot more durability because you're talking about hard materials hitting your hard wakeboard. So a lot of times the bases of these boards, whether they have channels or not, are gonna be made out of a material that can take a little bit more of that impact. It's gonna be a little bit softer material that can give a little bit, but it's not gonna be as fast as the material that's on the bottom of the boat board, just because when you are riding in a cable park, speed is not as big of an issue as it is with a boat board. Another big difference when it comes to these two boards is going to be sizing. With your standard boat board, there's going to be a standard size. Like myself, I'm around 195 pounds. I'm probably going to ride somewhere from a 139 up to a 142 in a standard boat board. But if I switched over to a park board, I'm probably going to be riding something a little bit bigger, maybe 5 centimeters bigger. With that extra flex in the board, I'm going to want a little bit more stability underneath the board, and I want a little bit more to actually lean on when I'm pressing and hitting those rails and boxes. So when you do buy that board for the park, you are going to be buying one that's just a little bit bigger than your standard boat board. So obviously there are a lot of similarities between the two boards, and yes, you can ride a park board behind a boat, you can ride a boat board in the park, but it's not something that you're going to want to do every single day. If you just happen to be out riding and there's a boat and you only have your park board, yeah, you can make it work. You're going to have to use your edges like crazy because there's no fins, there's nothing there to help the board track, especially when it comes off of the wake. And then if you go to the park and you do have a regular wakeboard, if you're not hitting the rails and boxes and stuff, you're going to be just fine just cruising around and doing air tricks. But again, it's not what it's built for. There are a few of those boards out there that are hybrid boards. Usually shape-wise, they're built similar to a boat board, but then they'll have a removable fin or some of those more durable materials on the bottom might have a little bit more of a flex closer to a park board. But again, at the end of the day, if you are riding park most of the time, you are going to ride a park board. And if you are riding boat most of the time, you are going to want that boat board. But if you have any questions beyond anything that we talked about in the video, definitely leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. We want to make sure we can get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we want to make sure that it's going to fit you and it's going to fit your specific riding style. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and definitely get that notification bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop. Figure out what kind of riding you're going to do. Get yourself a boat board, get yourself a park board, or get one of each so you're set no matter what kind of riding you're doing, and get out and ride. Because any day of riding is a good day of riding.